Hello, welcome back to fromsoftserve, and yes, I am starting a new game in Dark Souls 1, and that's to sort of update you on where I'm at in my Dark Souls 1 mod in the Super Overhaul, where I sort of discovered, oh, I need to just redo a ton of stuff. So Firelink Shrine, Undead Bird, all of that. I've started that overhaul about like a month, 2 months ago, and I'm through Anorlando, Sen's Fortress, Undead Bird, Firelink Shrine, Northern Undead Asylum, and Darkroot Garden is coming along well. Also, I think New Londo. But anyway, on here you can see I've done the armor for the hard leather set. I think today, after I record this video, I'm going to work on some of the armors to see if I can get all the starting classes here at least done. And for those not in the know who have seen every video, I am redoing all of the armors by taking their texture from Prepare to Die Edition, the Albedo texture, making a new specular map completely based on that upscaled Prepare to Die Edition Albedo, and then normal map, I sometimes make a new one, sometimes not, because honestly the DSR normal map is fine, quite honestly, but that's on a case-by-case basis. Yeah, let's go with the Thief, because I've done that set as well, and I think as you can see here, it looks awesome. It fixes, basically by me doing this to each set of armor, like upscaling, creating the new specular maps, editing the models to then use the alternate material system, it's the whole thing. It's the whole thing. By doing that, I can fix a lot of the all of the armor issues that Prepare to Die Edition had. They had the Elite Knight set not having holes in the top, which is weird. The helmet. There's a ton of issues, but anyway, so we're just gonna grab a bunch of stuff. Okay, hit start, and we'll skip this part, and then we'll see what the cutscene looks like because I haven't edited those. Cutscenes have their own like lighting settings. Ooh, this actually looks really good.
Indeed. The dark sign brands the
You'll see my new normal maps and the parallax occlusion mapping on the floor here
and in this
and the
land
wall. It actually looks really quite good. Yeah, the height maps are really working. I had to redo the parallax occlusion mapping. Yeah, this actually looks awesome. I mean, there's a little bit of ambient light that's like affecting the walls here that I don't like, but when you load in, that's gone. That should be the ambient specular setting, I think, for the cutscene. I could fix that. Oh, here's my guy.
this
Damn,
is your
look at that bag standing out. I wonder if I haven't fixed that bag yet. This actually looks really good, except for the bag. Don't worry about the bag. That's my screw up. I don't know what that is. I'm surprised I wouldn't have noticed that. So thank you, Oscar Big Dog. That's my guy right there. Okay. Oh yeah, I don't like the. Can't tell if that was AO or what that we were seeing. Give me that. Give me that. Give me that key. Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, I guess. Okay, well, we can fix that model real quick. It's actually a good thing to show. I have display capture on. So if I want to fix something, like this object obviously standing out, that's because it is currently not using the alternate material system. So we're going to pull up Smith Box. Yes, okay, good. I am in display capture. And we're gonna let it load here. And then let's go to Northern Undead Asylum. We load that map. And now we're gonna try to fly right to that cell. And here we go. It looks like it's this. It's 8402. So anyway, we go to our Dark Souls Remastered folder. I go to Object. Then you can see all the ones I've already opened, at least in this period of development, which I apparently missed this one. That's crazy. So 8402. 2. So let's hit Witchy B and D on that, which is going to crack open the actual file. And then you'll see it has a couple folders here. And interestingly, the model is not in the model folder. The model is in the inner root underscore 64. And then like 3 more folders. And here is the actual model, which is 08402.fliver, or Fiverr, as I like to say. We go over to materials, and you can see it's actually set to use, this is where the material ID is found. And you'll see it's set to M, which is your standard, and then it has basically in the brackets like what it does. So D for diffuse, B for bump map, S for specular, H for height. And then there's other things as well. Edge, Alp, there's a bunch of stuff. We got any edgers in chat. But anyway, basically you can see that this is a perfect example where when QLock was working on the remaster, this bag would have only had an albedo texture in Prepare to Die edition. So it wouldn't have had a normal map, wouldn't have had a specular map, didn't have anything. It just had the albedo texture. And so Prepare to Die edition had it set to only use the diffuse map because that's the only thing that's there. So in Dark Souls Remastered, they basically generated a normal map and a specular map for everything. Almost everything. There's a couple occurrences where not, but that was one of the biggest upgrades in Dark Souls Remastered, is now you can actually have normal maps on so many more things than PTD. But here's the problem. They did not update the material identifier here to use what you can see over here as the specular map and the normal map. So they made them, they just forgot to use them. So I'm going to switch it over to the specific material identifier I've edited to be on a different material system. I could get into the weeds of why they have an alternate material system. It was a whole thing. I think they had a backup one that they used in a couple occurrences because there were issues with the main material system, obviously, as we know. So that's my theory. Is they have this backup one, because the backup one that I'm using is actually far closer to what Prepare to Die edition did. So in terms of like specular maps, except for the difference here is I have a roughness cutoff. It's a whole thing. Anyway, so let's, we saved the model, or at least I'm pretty sure we did. Let's click back in because yeah, so it'll make a .back file automatically, Fiverr editor here. So that way you automatically have a backup that's just stored in there. So anyway, we saved that, and that should work. And it'll make the object not glow anymore. Because the reason why it was glowing is that it was set to the primary material system, which reads specular maps completely differently. And so now you can see the bag actually looks really quite good with my specular map and the normal map activated. It actually looks like a legit bag. It's fantastic. So anyway, let's open up our door. There we go. I worked on these walls and created new normal maps. And, you know, you're really going for like this grimy, slimy look, you know? Like in my head, that was my goal. And then the floor is like this nasty cobblestone. And then I also did edit the lighting in where the stray demon is. So I made a new specular map, and I switched over stray demon to the new material system that I'm using. And so now you can actually see with the new higher resolution specular map, he actually reacts to light much more naturally. Whereas like, at least in previous versions of my mod, he was just completely dark, but I've still not stamped out this little reflection issue with the white. I believe that's the actual sky, so it's like a reflect plane height issue. And yet I've been messing with that and it just doesn't really fix it. So that's been one of my longer term bugs that I'm like, well, I'll fix that at some point. I'll figure that one out. Let's light this up. You'll notice I modified the lighting settings, of course, to... Oh, check that out. We found another thing that's broken. That's also why I make these videos. Yeah, this foliage being black, that's the foliage here is overly dark. I haven't 100% figured that out yet. It's one of those weird, like, it's one of those weird issues that, oh yeah, I can't open the door that way. Once I do get up there, I'll fix, yeah, actually we can fix that right now by going here, fly out, and you'll notice these are the sort of like holdover things that I have to end up fixing one by one because they're like weird edge cases of the thing that we're looking at here is actually another object, 8520, because it's the destructible wall that you can then go and meet Oscar. But it's separate to basically all the texture edits I make are in the texture files and in the map object files or map piece files. Objects are in their completely separate files, so that's why I tend to these end up being the things I find out about later, and I'm like, it does show I opened it and I edited it. That's weird. Um, Now here you can see actually an instance of the backface culling, which is something I've had to fix so many times because I don't have the benefit of like a Dark Souls lighting engine type mod that would turn off backface culling automatically. So we actually have to open them up in Fiverr Editor and find the material entry. Now here, you didn't really need the backface culling off, to be honest, like because that's basically for if the sun was coming this way and hit the back of these meshes, the light would not come through because we turned off the backface culling. Had we kept it as it was, light could go through there. It's a whole thing. But realistically, in this case, that would not have happened, but it's just a general principle for working on a lot of these. You generally turn off backface culling. So here we go. We have the mesh done, and then I updated the material entry here over to the DBHM, which is interesting because if we open up MTD editor, which is basically how you can see all of the different material entries and what they do for Dark Souls Remastered, that's what this entry path here is. But basically, if we go here and we go under M, you'll see all the M wood, M foliage, M ivy. The M ivy and M foliage, those actually store vertex shaders or control those as far as like the swaying in the wind that some foliage will do. And that was added in Dark Souls Remastered. In Prepare to Die Edition, all of the foliage is static and it doesn't move. So a lot of it was updated in Dark Souls Remastered. And so it's another thing it doesn't really get credit for. But you'll see here we have some material entries. The standard one, the most commonly used one, was MDBL, which is diffuse bump mapping, and it does actually have a specular map thing. It just doesn't list it in the brackets, which was something I was confused about, and I went, oh, okay. And then the L is for light map. So of course, the first thing I did ages ago was switch over things to not using the light map. And that will get you to MDB. You basically just take the L off. You don't take the L. You give the L to someone else. It's fine. And that here's what I was learning is the MDB and most all of these function under the standard material system that comes with Dark Souls Remastered. And I needed to access the alternate. And you might be wondering, well, how did you figure out that there was an alternate one? Well, you work on certain areas and you'll notice, like in Undead Asylum, Duke's Archives, there's a few others, the Depths, they ended up using this alternate one. And that's where you'll find anything that says underscore spec. I figured out, I was like, I saw this new entry pop up, which is called G Material Workflow. And then the value is 1. And I was like, okay, because I would click on other things and then that would disappear. So I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And I noticed that there's a spec version of a lot of these for all the armors, and that's what I end up using when I redo the armors. I have to switch them over to the underscore spec because that uses the different material workflows. So I figured that out and I was like, okay. And then I had to learn how to make the specular maps by basing it on what they did for their specular maps for the alternate material system. It's a whole thing. Anyway, I then found what can I use on all models that would have this new material system. So you go through all of these standard ones, and you find DBH, and that is diffuse bump mapping, and specular mapping, of course, is in there as well. And then height map. That's what the H stands for. Dark Souls Remastered specifically puts the height map is a separate texture. Commonly, like in Bloodborne or Dark Souls 3, and Dark Souls 2 for the lighting engine, and even not, they basically would put their height map inside of one channel of the normal map. I'm gonna say this a million times. It's the whole thing. There's a lot, and so here it went. Oh, okay, we have a separate texture, and you actually have to like call it here for G underscore height. So I had to edit those, and then pick a height map, or make a height map. I had to make tons of height maps. So anyway. This is why I was switching over all the models manually. I've had to touch every single model in the game and fix backface culling, change over their material entries, sometimes here editing which height map is used, if a height map is used. And then here's the MDBHM. So the M stands for multiple. So that's where you can see it's actually doing a blend here between two diffuse maps, two specular maps, two bump maps. And then well, in this case, I'm not using the light map, which, interestingly enough, you'll see here, it says M18 lit black. That is actually just a black texture that they used if they ever just needed to darken something completely. And so I was like, oh, okay. These are all things I just figured out by goofing around. And it's weird having an outlet to tell people about that, because normally there is a 99.9999999% chance that no one would ever want to hear any of this, because it's nonsense. Absolute nonsense. I think it's cool, and you guys think it's cool, most of you. And I'm just like, man, this is just some absolute jabroni stuff. And I think that's a colloquialism, but don't worry about it. Anyway. We fixed the bricks. So let's go open the door to the gates of Oblivion. You can see Homeboy hanging out up there. Well, he looks a little bright. I might have the bloom turned up a little bit. I don't know. How close can I get before he... oh, actually, hold on. Oh, I still have cheats on. I forgot to update his model. I forgot, because I fixed Stray Demon. They use the same models. Silent Demon and Stray Demon. So he's actually using my different material, or not my material system, but the alternate material system, which is why he's glowing. Okay, because I redid his texture upscaling and new specular map. And I think a new bump map. I'm fairly certain, which is just a normal map. Okay, so hold on. This is more work. It turns out I just had stuff not totally working, which is just, if any of you have watched me for a while, you'll go, yeah, this is what he does. So he just fucks shit up. It's like, yeah, more or less. See, now I can curse. It's been long enough. It's been 18 minutes. Okay, so we need 2232. See, I haven't had that. There's different variations that will reference that same model and textures. And so if you don't have that specific model edited correctly, it will freak out. 22. Actually, not. It doesn't freak out. I'm very surprised by how the game is very resilient, and it will just go, yeah, this is set to the wrong settings, but we'll just display it anyway, and it looks awful. But it helps me figure it out really quickly, because I go, oh, okay. Basically, with my workflow, if it is glowing, like you just saw him in game, that means that I've done the specular map, I've remade it, I have forgotten to change the material entry to understand that specular map correctly, because I'll show you once I do this. So basically, here's his textures. He does, oh yeah, I forgot. They actually put the weapon textures here. So hold on a second. I believe I also have these in... No, that's his textures again. 2230? I think, no, that's it. He has a different weapon. Oh, he's got the hammer. Okay, so he's got the hammer. So that's why he gets this texture, which is actually very low resolution. But let me show you how I make these specular maps then. So basically, one key thing I do is I keep up a prepare to die edition window explorer or Windows Explorer window. Okay, you can tell I've done a lot of search results here. I'm just gonna go back to it. So basically, yeah, I have prepare to die edition, all the files sitting right here. Okay, I don't know why that closed. Anyway, we go to the exact same model. So we go to character 2232. So let's crack that open. 2232. There it is. So they store theirs a little bit differently in the character B&Ds, and then they have the Fiverr just sitting out there for a different one. There's small variations in the way that they handle the character texture. It's very odd. And so usually what I'll do is then compare each texture. Because this one, it looks like I have not upscaled yet. I could be wrong on that. No, I think I have upscaled that. Yeah, because this is lower resolution. But I try to look if, do I have the coloring correct? Which it turns out I do not. So I'm going to actually do the upscale over again because I don't trust that. And also I've been redoing a lot of the upscaling. Yeah, you can see here. So inside this text file, you can see this is the albedo texture, this is the normal map, and this is the specular map. Now the format is how we tell the game what format the texture is going to be in, so they do have to line up with what you save the textures as. And this was something I struggled with for a long time until I just figured out what the fuck the textures were and what the format numbers mean. So number 1 or 0 means you save it as BC1, so it's the very classic old style textures, which they use for their standard specular maps, which you'll see is the red texture here. 36 is for the normal maps. That saves it as BC5. So here we want to change this to 38, and we want to change the specular map over to 38 because we are using BC7, the standard, the industry standard texture compression. We're going to use that. And so we get to store more detail without losing as much because BC1 is fucking ancient, and it was used in Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, just for an age comparison. It's very old texture compression format. So anyway, we have the Prepare to Die edition original texture that we took here. We have the PNG for it, and we're gonna now open up Photo AI because we're gonna upscale this bad boy. That was the last thing I was working on. We pull in the PNG that I've converted because you can't load a DDS texture straight into Photo AI, which I understand. They want to just upscale the image itself, and then saving as DDS is a whole bunch of stuff. That's a lot of stuff you have to support. So I understand why Photo AI goes, nah, just convert it for me. It'd be nice if maybe it would just convert it for us, but you know. So basically, I usually look at the standard V2 AI model, and I go, and this is not generative AI. This is just AI upscaling, which is trained on things, yes, but as far as I know, it's not theft, not stealing from humans. So I usually like to see how much detail did we get? Was there too much denoising? And you generally try to see, can I get more detail without massively changing like what the texture looks like. But obviously this will never be a 100% authentic mod because obviously stuff like this, but I'm okay with that. You know, sometimes you pull down it's the de-blur that adds most of the extra detail. And then I usually mess with the compression. So it is a 1x1 texture upscaling operation. Because there's not really any way to do bulk upscaling anyway, but honestly, I'm glad that I'm not. So I save that as BC7. We then open that up in Photoshop. And then we have it here. We are now going to open up the specular map. So this is the default specular map that QLock made, and it's fine. And it basically, the red channel is roughness, the green channel is metallic, and then the blue channel, as far as I can tell, is shininess, and then alpha is nothing. So, and that's why it ends up looking red, because all the information is in the red channel. And here's how I make the specular maps for the material system I swapped over to, which is much closer to what Prepare to Die Edition does, and it's kind of what these assets were made with that in mind. So basically, I copy the red channel. You might be wondering, why wouldn't you just copy the whole RGB and do it all at once? Well, Photoshop's weird, and if you copy the RGB into the RGB of two different DDS textures, it will say, oh, you just can't save it as DDS anymore. You can only save it as PSD, as a Photoshop project. And it's like, well, I mean, no. So you have to copy one by one. That's the only thing I've found that I'm like, well, that's annoying. Now, one thing you can copy the whole RGB. So basically, we have our red, green, and blue, which you can see they match the red, green, and blue of the albedo texture. And then we go in, we actually copy the whole RGB, and we put that in the alpha channel, and then we invert it because the roughness is handled in the alpha channel. And so basically, that's where we're telling where the specular should be and where the non-shiny areas should be. So it's not, I admit I am not an expert on, PBR workflows or whatnot. So this is very much like an old style specular map setup. Kind of. It's interesting because if you look at Prepare to Die Edition, they have very similar specular maps, except that they don't have different information in each channel. They actually have basically, like if you had the red here, that would just be copied into the green and the blue, and it's the same. And I am curious if that's just better than just copying from the albedo texture. I am more just basing it on the results that I get. And so obviously inverting here works very well, and you have the roughness. In Prepare to Die Edition, they didn't have anything in their alpha channel at all. So I don't exactly know. I think they were just letting the specular fly. And so here I do have to have like an actual like roughness cutoff to like make sure it doesn't get too crazy. But anyway, I usually start with this as I have not altered any of the levels in the alpha channel or any of the other specific channels, because basically, if we go back to Photoshop for a second, I'm jumping all over here. This is going to be a long video of me talking about my process. This is therapy for me, basically. So yeah, if we go back to Photoshop for a second, if you want to make the specular effect higher, you actually make the red, green, and blue brighter. And if you want to make the specular less, you can basically brighten this to where there's less black. The darker this is, or any parts of this image, that has more specular. So that's sort of like the cap on it. But then you're also messing with this. So I usually let the albedo textures speak for themselves, and the variations will be in the different albedo textures, the levels that they already had. But there are instances where I've had to go in, and you can basically use like the dodge or burn tool to either, I think the burn tool is the darken, and here you can see you just darken the things that should be specular if it's not like enough by default. So there are manual tweaks that are in there. So anyway, we have a specular map now, and we have a new albedo texture. What we're going to do is save that. Now it's in the TPF file for this, and we're going to open up the actual model for the Asylum Demon, because we need to switch it over to the material workflow. So what we do, now one thing I also did is it had dull leather set as, I think, his body, and I always found it to be more of a leather style, so a little bit more specular on that. That is admittedly me thinking, yeah, I think that looks better. Really, it's all an end result. You could do it to the specular map without altering this realistically, but I just prefer, because basically it all depends on how I have the different materials set up. So I have leather set up as twice as specular as dull leather, and so that's kind of how you get into which one does what. So it all depends on how you have that set up. And then they have the face set as wet, which has even higher specular levels. But we basically just we add spec to the end of all of these. Now there is 2231 body, and I have to make sure, is there one in here that can use the material workflow? Because that's key. But then I just did it to Stray Demon, so there clearly is. I just don't remember. So here's the special ones they made. So they have 2231 body, and they did make an underscore spec version of it. So that's fantastic. Actually, let me make sure that's the right one. Yes, that's right. I ended up having to switch Stray Demon over to this other one because he's 2232 and this is 2230. It's a whole thing. Don't worry about it. It's a bunch of, I've said that like 500 times in the video, but there's so many little quirky things that I've learned that no one would ever want to know. Okay, so we saved 2232, and now we load back in the game. And I believe he should now not be glowing. He did kick me out. Okay. Okay. Yeah, so he was glowing because... Right, okay, so the bloom is fine. Let's have him hop down again. And then we can get close to him, because I actually have that turned off. Oh! Oh, you know what I broke? Oh no, hold on a second. I broke something. Or, oh, let me go into filters, region. Yeah, I had a light here that I don't think is working. The point light ID 37. Yeah. So I goofed this up. I had created a point light in here to give some illumination to the Asylum Demon because normally he was, you know, going over to dynamic shadowing is what did it. But anyway, we can see here I have point light ID 37. I made this actually, this little region point. I do need to do something very quickly first. Because there's an in-game editing tool that I've been doing, which is actually really cool, but I need to make sure my params are always set to the most recent, depending on which one I saved. I'll show you in a second. It'll make sense. Let me click on this. And I basically just see which one's more current, because I understand that my brain is just going to forget. So you'll see actually here, the latest one was 1 a.m. I was working on something. In the A12 draw param. So these are the most recent. Okay, cool. I had only been messing with the fruit garden is where I wanted to end up at the end of this video. So I wanted to like get to Firelink Shrine. You see that. There's just a bunch of prep work. Don't worry about it. Maybe this is an hour-long video. And maybe this is just what I should do, because I'm better at doing this than like streaming and then doing modding while I stream, because that sucks. I don't like that. Unfortunately. I think I could make more money if I enjoyed that and was better at it, but I am not. So Northern Undead Asylum. So basically, let's load this up again. And we're going to go up to the middle, okay? And then we have, I made this little region point, because this is how you have to make point lights in this game. And so I made this, I called it Spotlight 1, and it's connected to point light something underscore 28 or whatever that means. It's probably just light 28. And then I set it to point light 37, which is what I made. Now let's go in here, which we have to go to the M18 point light bank. And yes, because I had redone this at some point, and this point light no longer is anything. And so that's why it's not showing up in game, because I just had not done anything with it. And so I have to tweak it again, which is not ideal. So let's say we go 1 and then 10 and then 100. I'm kind of freeballing this here. Not a technical term, but freeballing this. Because I'm not doing it. Oh, actually, you know what's perfect? Yeah, maybe I do 110. Actually, this will work out very well. So I saved the paramps for that. We're going to pop that in. And then I'm going to show you something that has massively altered my workflow. It has changed my life. And it's all based on something I got in a Discord. Someone made a program to edit params live for Dark Souls 1, like while you're in game, and it's amazing. Actually, yeah, get your bitch ass down here. Yeah, hop down. Yeah, okay, so now you can see the point light is actually like illuminating him a little bit, where before he's just like awkwardly standing in shadow, which is really weird. So and that's all a dynamic shadowing thing. It's an issue they didn't have to mess with because they were doing baked lighting. So you just don't have to mess with that. Like, he's good, but then they can stand out awkwardly too. So anyway, so here's the thing. It's called DS1 Draw Param Editor. It was made by like Soroka, who's someone I've worked with and talked with, but they've changed their name a lot on Discord, and now they're gone from Discord. So I don't know if they deleted their account. Anyway, this is a super early thing they shared. And basically, you can load it up, set your exe path to wherever your Dark Souls Remastered exe is. You can then hit read param files, and we're going to go to the draw param of what we need to edit. Now, admittedly, this program is useless if you don't know the setup, the very arcane setup of draw params for Dark Souls 1. If you don't know how they function, this is not going to massive. Well, to be fair, this has helped me learn exactly what every single thing does. But anyway, so we go in here, we go to the M18 point light bank, which is exactly what we were looking at in Smithbox. So basically, I'm going to the same exact stuff I was looking at in Smithbox, but I'm doing it in-game, which is just massive. So here we go, and now we have all the different entries, and we're going to go down to 37, because 37 is the one we're using. The music also awkwardly cuts back in. Here you can see I can actually tweak it live, which is just a game changer. So essentially, I can just tweak the alpha setting. It's not good to tweak the dwindle begin and end because there's a bug in this program where it will then jump to like 1000 because of it just has like the overall like velocity change wrong on these entries. So I tend to do those in Smithbox still. But anyway, so here you can see I can actually alter the point light. I think I'll leave it at 49, and then I hit save params, and now the params are saved, and it's changed my entire workflow so much. But let's cut this guy. Okay. I'll get that bleed. You can see his gooch. Have you not made him bleed yet? That's crazy. Oh yeah, I forgot. I'm not supposed to kill him here. I'm an idiot. I think I could have, right? Yeah, he's killable. I just don't do much damage. Anyway, it's not like I've played Dark Souls 1 a bajillion times. Certainly not. A target shield. Yeah, there is a weird... I'm not happy with this corridor, really. It's set to, like, weird lighting settings. It's a whole thing. I gotta change this. But for now, it's a little bit brighter, and that's kind of the point. But I'm not totally happy with this part. But that's fine. Bandit's neck. Wait. There is a bug with the shader overhaul that is like baked into my mod by Altimore let me use it, where it changed up like the shader understanding of wall torches and being able to operate in under dynamic shadows. Very important, but it does have an interesting like bug where this happens. Yeah, and I ended up fixing it, although fixing is in air quotes, because I ended up switching like what light ID the player switches to where it never switches, so then that doesn't happen, but it doesn't look as natural. Because there are times where you need to actually switch like what light ID you're using, because sometimes you're in a dark area, sometimes you're in a bright area, like it's going to vary, and that doesn't work that well, so I got to figure out something with that. And am I going to get hit by the ball? Absolutely not. Never. I almost did, actually. Ooh. Hey, what's up, Oscar? What's up, big dog? Is he using my new armor? Yes, he is. Estus Flask, thank you. You can see his helmet has holes at the top for his visor thing, as it should, because I went back to the Prepare to Die edition texture, but those are things. Oh, Oscar, big dog, no. You got so much to live for. I mean, I have so much to live for. Maybe you don't, because you got hit pretty hard. So, maybe that's bad. There's also been a big issue in well, just DS1 in general with how it handles the player lighting. And so I've been able to fix it to where the player like naturally is lit. Uh, and that's a big part of the mod is fixing that, because in the base game there's so many instances because they rely on baked lighting. There's so many times where the player is either awkwardly standing out or is like awkwardly dark, and that's just because you don't have any like actual normal shadow casting happening anywhere. And so there's just, switching over to fully dynamic lighting. That's basically why you do it, is that the player is now naturally like either shadowed or being illuminated. That's kind of a big goal. Um, yoink. Got him. I still have my cheats on. Don't worry about it. I think I'm bleeding them, right? I have max. I have unlimited stamina too. Very nice. Really, the butter knife takes this long? I should turn the HUD on, probably. I play a lot with the HUD off. I mean, normally it doesn't take this long. Also, I did the drop attack. What's up? What's up with that? Oh, did I turn on no damage for the... Huh. Oh, I'm dumb. I'm just dumb. I didn't even equip the right weapon. Okay, chat, no one judge me, okay? No one judge me. They both look the same, okay? They look the same. The broken sword and the dagger, insane. Insane behavior. Also pretty classic on my videos. I'll just overlook something incredibly basic. Don't look at my slash played on this game. I've been playing World of Warcraft, so I got slash played on the brain. I have like 2,500 hours. Oops. Anyway, let's go run this way. Yeah, get me the hell out of here. How bad does this cutscene look? I haven't edited the params for the cutscene. Well, I need to edit the depth of field for the cutscene because, God, the mountains, no matter what you do to those mountains, they look like ass. Okay, 8 hours later, we made it to fire. Damn, I don't know why my guy was like starting with a run, but shit, he was. All right, we're in Firelink. We are here. And this is what it looks like currently. I made a discovery about Firelink Shrine, which is... I finally understood the reason why it was so hard to replicate the visuals of Firelink Shrine from either DSR or Prepare to Die Edition, because actually they're very similar between the two. They're closer than I think a lot of people think. Also, I put a point light up here where the light's coming through. Pretty cool. Or I put the point light back that I had done like a year ago. No, I figured out. So let's go up here. The big problem with Firelink Shrine is I can never get like the shadowing to work effectively and like the player to like stand out correctly, and it's just been a struggle. And that's because Firelink Shrine had, as we know, had no dynamic shadowing by default, right? Because it was that's not what they did, right? They used baked light. But then I looked and I noticed, I don't know how I had overlooked this. They didn't use baked lighting at all for Firelink Shrine specifically. They just let this area ride. So basically, it looked like everything was lit from multiple angles because there was no real... I mean, you had like a light scattering direction and you had like fog direction, but as far as like actual light direction, you just didn't have that. So I had to tweak the shadow placement myself, which actually I can do that again. It's really, that's been able to help me dial it in, because that has been another discovery that I've been curious about for a long time, which is the dynamic shadow X and Y coordinates for like the player shadow, for instance. Is that the same direction as the baked lighting that was cooked and then made as a texture and applied in the base game? Well, it turns out it's not. Sometimes. It varies. They sometimes had the player that shadow ID set to like different coordinates to like offset with the environment baked lighting. It's a whole thing. So I ended up having to figure out, okay, I'll just manually move the shadows around till it matches where the baked shadows are. So obviously in Firelink you don't have that because there were no baked shadows. There was nothing. All you had was ambient occlusion. Realistically, you didn't have a lot going on in terms of lighting. So anyway, I basically go in here and let's make sure I remember where I had it, which was 136. But let's go here and I can show you, kind of how you dial that in. So we go here and you'll see I have the density set at 65. You can basically darken the shadows and make them, more visible or not. And I, of course, did not want them to be too harsh, right? But here you can move the actual shadow direction. The shadows you see moving are actually from the branches up above. We actually have shadow casting happening even on the big giant tree branches. So that's what you're seeing there. And that obviously required a lot of other modifying the shadow depth settings to like, can it cast a shadow on a very high building? Because by default, none of the dynamic shadows could. And so commonly, you just didn't have anything that was working. Let's go up to Undead Berg. What's up, big dog? How's it going? Let's zoom in on this guy. Okay, this running water is going to make me have to pee. That's a problem. But anyway, we can make it to Darkroot Garden. I feel confident. Oh, we need to like go to Anorlando as well. Wait, why is there a point light here? What did I do for a point light to be appearing randomly here? Hold on a second. What did I do? That's not usual. Did I leave a point light there? Probably. But why it would have appeared so randomly, that I don't know. Anywho, let's fly down there and oh yeah. Oh yeah, Undead Bird Bounce Light. What? Was I high? This have been when I was doing bounce lighting like 17 years ago. Oh no, I gotta undo that. I don't trust that. That's a mess. Although I'll redo them at some point, but I don't trust those bounce lights. Those were from... Wait, failed to save file. What are you talking about? I think I know what it's talking about. Yeah. Oh wow, I had bounce lighting. Oh, where was that at? Well, I don't know. Okay. Let's get rid of all my bounce lighting. Because that was just manually placing point lights, which is fine, but I would have been doing that on an earlier version of my mod, so that's a bit of a problem. Oops, let me delete all my region. Oh yeah, here we go. Bounce light. Bounce light, bounce light, bounce light. We don't need those. So normally what it does when it has an error, because I've either deleted a region point, but I didn't delete the light, or I deleted the light, but not the region point. The region point are these floating geometric things that actually control like where events happen and things. Normally it will tell me, hey, we screwed up, and here's what screwed up. Not in this version of Smithbox, I don't think. That might not be working currently. But anyway, we fixed it manually, knowing which thing was causing the issue. So here we go. Let's copy that over. So that should get rid of those bounce lighting. That's my bad. I honestly forgot I had those. I feel like I would have noticed those, but all right. Anyway, got rid of those. Okay, yeah, that makes more sense to me. That was based on faulty lighting directions. Oh yeah, I forgot. It was a new game. Oops. What's up, big dog? How you doing? For a second there, I thought the shadows were actually like glitching, but no, that was him. He is him. As you can see, I have fixed the dynamic shadow coordinates so that now this is actually shadowed. Oh man, so okay, here's a really weird bug with the mod. It's the only like super long. Well, okay, there's that other bug that I don't know that it still exists, where it's if you go to Blight Town, but you like take a really long path to get there, it like won't load the textures for the area, and then you have to like log out and log back in, and then it's fine. That's another long-term bug, but like I'm glad you can just like quit out and go back in. This is an interesting point that causes crashes, and it's always right in this area, but it doesn't always happen. It's weird. It will sort of like, it kicks you back this far, and then let me use DSR gadget. I will warp to the Undead Berg bonfire, and then it shouldn't crash, but it still could if I run out. But that very specific area, I have zero idea what is being activated and why the crash happens, but it does. So such is life. Yeah, we got to get to Undead Berg, or no, we got to get to Darkroot Garden. Yeah, so now you can see I manually moved the dynamic shadows to match the lighting here because I was actually wrong when I said in previous videos. Also, there's some shadow moire issues. I will be fixing those as best I can. But I was wrong in previous videos where I would be like, oh yeah, so the bridge actually was not set to cast shadows, or it wasn't included in the whatever the fuck I was talking about. And that was just actually wrong. It's that the shadow coordinates for the dynamic shadows, they were making the bridge cover that area because I had the wrong coordinates that were in the game by default. And so here's another instance where this is shadowed again, just like the baked lighting, but that's because I have the right coordinates. Also, it's been so much work to get the distant Sense Fortress over there looking okay, although it's very depth of field, which is actually closer to Prepare to Die Edition. And then here you can see the Moonlight Castle in the distance, which of course is not in the unmodded game. They didn't have anything back there. Oh, that's the barrel. Oh, God, that's so helpful to me. Oh my God. Hold on. This is going to sound so stupid, but I've been wondering that barrel has been ruining my life because it ends up here. And it's always been really glowy like that because I didn't have the material settings changed, but I didn't know where to find the barrel because it's not this down here. You would think that it is because it would crash over. That's not it. I've already fixed that. It's this. 1330. Oh my God, this bug has been killing me. Not really. I see it every once in a while and I go, damn. So 1330. Do I have that one opened up? No, I don't, which would make perfect sense. So let's open up 1330. This is probably going to be like an hour-long video. And I do think it'll be a very good window into what this process is. So if you're wondering why it's taken me 2 years of off and on work to get to where I'm at, but I'm feeling good. I got a workflow down. It's just a lot, you know. It's just a lot. Let's see what we got here. So I converted that over, and then this is edge, which is rope. Which I don't remember if I've actually done the rope texture yet. So if I'm ever curious, I think I have. We go into our Undead Bird texture file, which is the same for Firelink Shrine, and the depths, they all share an M10. Let's go into here, and 1 rope 03. Oh, I did. Okay. So what I need to do is then go back because there's a very specific material entry that I use for edge related things, which anything that's like edge or alp in the material entry here is basically for like if there's transparency, that's essentially what it's doing. So I'm going to randomly open up some of my previous worked one. Oh my god, I nailed it. Okay. So basically, here's the one I use for all Alp-related things, and then here's the thing I use for any Edge-related thing. And the reason why you're doing this is to switch it over to the underscore spec, which is the alternate material system. So I had to find one that actually like worked. Funny thing is, I actually took this from Prepare to Die edition. Now I'm noticing it, which is why you'll see the Win32, because it was 32-bit. Now, interestingly, that doesn't matter. It doesn't mess anything up. The game doesn't care if it's underscore x64 for 64-bit. It's really weird. But that is something I've noticed where I'm like, oh, okay. I guess I forgot to change that to inner root underscore 64. Anyway, now we're going to save that object, Dunzo, and then we're going to hit Booyah. And now when we log back in, that barrel should already be destroyed, I think. Now it should not be glowing. But thank God. I hadn't started a new character in a while, so that would explain the oversight. Look at that. It looks like a normal barrel again. You love to see it. Also check out this cobblestone. Look at that surface. Look at that texture. Okay, bud. Thank you, big dog. Go in here. I do have the master key. You love to see it. And there's going to be Mr. Havel. Havel Cheese is down here. Usually one shot, but of course, we have cheat mode activated. And therefore he can't. I actually have not, I don't think I've touched his armor yet. His armor actually looks pretty okay at the moment. But okay, thank you, big dog. Now I have to forewarn you, Darkroot Basin, this is not like finished visuals. This was me doing like 5 hours of work last night on this area, and as you can tell, I screwed up this area big time. This little rock thingy, don't worry about it, I'll fix it. I gotta add some grass here as well because it looks a little barren. Oh, and that tree's goofed up as well. Well, don't worry about it, I'm working on it. One of the big things I wanted to do is bring the dynamic shadow casting to here, but it's based on the moonlight, right? Because I can't do bright root garden, because of course it's not bright, right? I did that in the past, right? But I still wanted there to be shadows, so I was goofing around with the params. Also, this thing is loading in too early. That's from Undeadburg. I'll fix that. I did do one pass on the crystal guys, and this is their new specular map and kind of how they're looking. I think it actually looks pretty fucking sick, if I do say so myself. Another thing I really wanted to tackle was the water here had this really annoying light that was hitting it, which makes sense because it was basically getting hit by the same like light that the rest of the like this here was getting hit by as well. Light ID 0. So I went into Blender and I cut this water out and I made it its own model, and so then I set it to its own light ID that I made myself, and I set it to 0, or I modified all the different light settings because basically the moon is up here, and so like the light was distracting and actually made the water look really bad. Now here's the problem though. I need to be tweaking. I got to tweak this water more because I ended up making it too reflective, and now you can't see through to where the edge is like at all because now it's actually reflecting the entire environment. As you can see, like, it's not screen space, of course. This is actually, well, it's weird. It does coal the reflections, but it's not actually a screen space thing, because Dark Souls Remastered, as far as I know, has no mention of screen space anything. It's just planar reflections, which are arguably better in many cases. But here you can see the light actually going through the tree, which I have set to the wrong material entry. Don't worry about it. And then you can see the corner of this rock is set to the Alp. That's why it's supposed to blend into the terrain. Unfortunately, it doesn't look very good, but it doesn't look very good in the unmodded game either, so I need to kind of figure out a solution for that. Also, why does this tree have a giant hole in it? And it's floating. Okay, there's so many problems. Oh, there's the night set, which I have also updated the textures for, and it actually looks pretty sick. So this isn't final visuals or anything. I've just kind of been vibing out, and I gotta fix the textures there. But one thing I did is actually pulled in all of these models, all this environmental models here, and I pulled them into Blender thanks to Soulstruct for Blender, and I was able to up the poly count and smooth them out a little bit, which is ridiculous considering they're fogged pretty heavy. You can't really see, but that's kind of the difference of any sort of like high resolution mod or increasing fidelity, is that I need them to hold up under the scrutiny a little bit higher, so I've had to up the poly count because some of the lighting setups that I have for some of the maps, man, these models can really look bad. So you can see here, this thing is naturally shadowed by where the moonlight is. Here's an example of a model I have not modified yet. Look how sharp those edges are. So I do need to go through those and tweak that as well. But we're going to run up here. I got to make that less obvious between the two of those. There's different fog settings. This area just trust me, this area looked like 500 times worse or more broken before I worked on it last night. I'd been working in the Undead Bird mines in Firelink Shrine for so long. But I did want to make progress on another area. So another thing, actually the biggest thing I was doing, is all of this, I would say about 90% of this, actually all those trees are new as well, but all of this is from actually Undead Berg. That model's a little too bright, but that's because I have to modify that. But you'll see the shadow from the tree here, and so these are all models that I pulled in that are much higher quality than the models that were there originally in the fake Distant Undead Berg from like when you were here. This, I forgot to modify this one specific model, so that's why it's brighter. Here is a reflection height change based on the collision you're standing on. That's why the water changes like that. So I likely will just change the reflection height here to match here, and then I think it should be fine. Getting to do that. I've also talked for so long, my voice hurts. I need to drink water. But so let's go towards this way. Okay. I've redone some of the textures here, and so you get really good surface quality. Do normal maps. Then you get some actual like shadows that are hitting the wall here. So that's all new. And we go back in here. Go back in Undead Berg. That looks kind of weird. Those holes have never worked very well. They have like this giant hole, but it just doesn't. Right now it actually looks pretty decent from what I have set up. Here doesn't look great, but that's because the fog of Darkroot Garden is vastly different, so I might have to like block that out or something. And yeah, here's Andre. He's banging away, as all homies do. So I heard. Like that. Yeah, so you can download a version of this mod that's probably like 5 days old, so it does miss some of this. I plan to upload this version. God damn it, I gotta fix the fucking texture right here. This wall surface had a lot of issues with UV mapping. So let's go out this way and see if we can just walk in the parish real quick. Okay, camera is having some issues. So I had to like manually line up the shadows here. Make sure they fit. But they do. And yeah, working on every surface. Here we can see dynamic shadows. And I also got dynamic shadows. Let's see where the angle is. I couldn't make them perfect, unfortunately, because there are instances where they were using two different directions based on if you were inside or outside, so I've had to unify those. And that has led to it being imperfect in some sense, but I'm okay with that. Those are changes I have to make. Ooh, check that out, I gotta fix that. There's a specular map that's a rogue specular map. What's up, guys? How's it going? We got another guy. What's up, big dog? Oh, yeah, I forgot I can't go in here. I'd have to warp in there. Ooh. Okay. Yeah, so that is a lot of Dark Souls 1 stuff that I'm working on. And yeah, I think it's cool. And I hope you think it's cool too. And it's a lot of work. Next video will be on Dark Souls 3. I'm still working on that mod. And that one is a little easier to work on. So it's kind of a nice vacation from Dark Souls 1 work, where it's much more difficult and involving. Oh, that specular map too? Damn. Well, I got a lot of the stuff down to where Undead Berg is to a pretty good point. Oop, that's the floor of the world. Well, shit. But you can see the vision. Is you can see the real Sen's Fortress. You can see the real moonlight butterfly. I've talked too long. So anyway, thank you for watching. And yeah, if you want to support the mod, you can subscribe to Patreon. Just Ko-Fi for PayPal donations in the description below. And it's greatly appreciated. So thank you for watching. And next video will be on Dark Souls 3. I'll see you then. Oh god, the texture resolution on that. That's still pretty bad. That's pretty bad. Alright, I'll see you next time. Goodbye.